you're with us, folks. Day 108, the Clinton presidency, i.e. the U.S. hostage crisis, i.e. the raw deal rolls on. We're here with our Fireside Chat Show. We have some viewer videos. We have some phone calls. I'm here looking now at the monitor to see this. We got somebody from some Peachtree City, that's near Atlanta. Peachtree City, Georgia. From Atlanta, sir. And she's upset with me. I don't know if you people know this or not. I'm sure you do. I have agreed and, in fact, have already sat for a Playboy interview. I was waiting for Now, a lot of people are upset with me over this, and she is one, and I want to take her call, and I'm sure that her questions probably, or her disagreements with me, will mirror the same ones you have, and we maybe could settle this and get it out of the way. What else? Buffalo, Clinton staff, is it in panic? Bosnia, Europe. So we got a lot of good phone calls. We also have our usual, let's see, I asked them if they had this all set up, so let's see as I hit the play button here. What do we have? This ought to be the fireplace if everything's working, and it is. Remote control romance. There we go. Let me know the volume's up. I got to turn the... So over here, boy, what an easy crowd. You know, a VCR works and the audience applauds. And here we go. This ought to be our aquarium. Little fish with my book right inside. Anytime these idiot fish. How would you like to be a fish? Just swim around all day, wet all the time. We have some viewer videos. Let's show you our first one. Let's just go ahead and roll the first viewer video of the night. Take a look. We call it Newsletter.
Yes! Yes! The Limbaugh letter has finally arrived. The Limbaugh letter? Say the Limbaugh letter? Hey! 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 Hey, give that back! That's mine! I waited a month for that thing! Woo!
Very good. Very good. All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I got to share some great news. My book, The Way Things Ought to Be, you might have noticed it. Well, there it is, right behind me. We have multiple copies of it sitting right behind me. And it was #1 on the New York Times bestseller hardcover nonfiction list for about, what was it, 22 weeks it was #1. It's been on a total of 35 weeks. And in the last month, it's been losing its position. It was #1. And Bill Moyer's book, Healing of the Mind, came along and bumped it out. And then some other book came along. And a book, in the Washington Post list, I know it fell to 8. And I think it got as low as 5 on the New York Times bestseller list. So I got a call Thursday morning from my editor, Judith Regan, over at Simon Schuster. She said, "You're back up to #2. Back up to," and I thought, okay, the book had run its course. We've sold about 2.5 million copies of The Way Things Ought to Be. It's #2. Thank you. It's number. Now get this, it's #2. This is why I had, in fact, the paperback version of it will be out soon in the fall. And they asked me to write an update chapter for the paperback version, and I did. And I titled that chapter, "No, I'm not going to change it. We are winning." A lot of people think I ought to change the last chapter where I said we're winning, and I decided not to, and I did tell the reasons why. And so I had to send that manuscript in, and in talking to Judith, she said, "You know, this thing is coming back, and we're at 2.5 million on the hardcover list. That's #2 behind Iacocca for all-time bestseller hardcover nonfiction. We're only about 200,000 behind Iacocca." So the main thing I want to do here is thank you for, if something is happening out there, folks, to cause this book to be sold at a rapid rate again. So I just want to say thanks. I always do. I always try to take a serious amount of time and thank all of you for not only watching this show, but listening to the radio show and ordering and reading the newsletter and the book, because my success is totally and solely due to you and your willingness to participate in all this, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now, I'm working on book 2. And it'll be out if I get it done on time, and I will because I'm punctual and responsible. It'll be out at Christmas time, and it's called See, I Told You So. There's the cover of the book. There it is. I wanted to show you. Put that back up. Look at, isn't that is an absolute beautiful cover. I think blue, Dick, as we read, look at, oh man, isn't that cute? And we got a brand new photo session the other day. Kathleen just told me we have some of the quotes on this book that we can. Look at this. Let me read this. Outrageous and impudent Rush Limbaugh is the loudest noise in the crucial conversation America's having with itself. Time magazine. Funny and devastatingly on target. Milwaukee Sentinel. An instant bestseller. Newsweek. Fascinating. Limbaugh. Whatever your opinion of him is, of his politics, is a consummate. And that's the right way to pronounce that, by the way. A lot of people think it's consummate, but it's not. It's consummate. You know how I know this? In the old days, if you wanted to go work for NBC, back in the days when they talked like this and they had their hands over their ears, and I'm Walter Winslow, they gave you a list of names to pronounce to see how educated you were, and consummate was on the list. Now, if you look it up in the dictionary, it'll have it both ways, consummate and consummate, but or consummate too. You look it up and you'll find them all three there. But anyway, it's been a fun experience, and we're working on this book, and I just wanted to point out the good news and thank you. We have, as I say, the phone calls. What else do we have? Let me just go through the rundown if I can find it. Well, I had it. I think it's going to be, here it is. We have for you a little lesson in supply-side economics tonight, provided by none other than Governor Mario Cuomo of New York. And Anna Quinlan, I don't know how many of you saw, she is a Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist for the New York Times, and they did an interview with her in the media section of the business section, there she is, of the USA Today the other day. She said some of the most incredible things in this interview. For a feminist who apparently leading the charge and trying to tell other men and women how they ought to live, this is absolutely amazing. So there's a lot coming up. Stay right where you are. We'll be back with the rest of our show soon. This is, to me, fascinating, it is important, and it is crucial that you learn this. Why? Because one of the worst history revisions that's going on now, right now is that of the attempt to rewrite what really happened in the 1980s. As you know, the 80s have been criticized as the decade of greed and selfishness. And the reason that the 80s are no good, goes the theory, is that the rich got tax breaks and then didn't share any of the money with the poor. Because the rich are evil, they're mean, they're greedy, they're selfish, they're just rotten. They're worthless. We ought to get rid of all the rich, we ought to punish the rich, we ought to tax everything we've got and get rid of them. And they're just reprehensible people. And they didn't pay their fair share, and so now we gotta get them. We gotta go get corporations, because they're evil too. They don't pay people enough money and they make too big a profit most of the time. So we gotta go get them. So, that's what liberals say. The reason they say that is because the 80s were just the opposite. If you worked and you engaged in the entrepreneurial practices that were prosperous in the 80s, then you did well. People really, the 19 million substantive new jobs were created. We generated all kinds of new revenue for the government by cutting tax rates in half. In fact, more than that, we went from a top marginal rate in 1981 when Reagan took office of 70% down to 28% when he left. And those kind of policies would be good for the country now. And to prove it, I'd like to go to none other than New York Governor Mario Cuomo, Mario the Pious, I call him here. Now, let me tell you something. I don't know how many of you people know this, but Mercedes-Benz is going to build an automobile manufacturing plant in America. They want to escape the high costs of labor and so forth in Germany. To Germany, we're Mexico. I mean, it's one way of looking at it. The Germans running around saying, and they're exporting jobs to the United States. I mean, we're a bunch of migrant farm workers to the Germans. So every governor wants that manufacturing plant, that automobile plant in his state. So how do you think that Mario Pius is trying to get Mercedes-Benz to build in his fiefdom? Well, let's put a graphic up and show you. Here are some economic lessons from Mario the Pius. How to lure foreign manufacturers by Mario Cuomo. Number one, you offer tax breaks for the rich. You know, he has offered tax breaks to Mercedes-Benz if they will locate in New York. He's going to give them a break on the New York State tax rate. Number two, offer incentives along the lines of moving some employees, helping to build the plant, get the state going in with a lot of relaxation of regulation and so forth, which gets us to number three. He's offered to relax some environmental constraints so that they'll have a chance to not have to be so rigid when they build the plant with emission control standards and so forth. What does this all add up to? Number four, this is, in essence, trickle-down economics. Now, leave that up there for a second, Chet, because I want to contrast what this governor, Mario Cuomo, is doing to try to lure a foreign manufacturer as compared to what he's doing to people in his own state and what President Clinton wants to do. What does President Clinton want to do? He wants to raise taxes on you and raise taxes on American corporations. He wants to re-regulate the economy and re-regulate American business. He wants to take away incentives for doing well and instead slap punishments on people for doing well. He wants to provide disincentives for investment because he wants government to be in charge of everything. Now, here's the real world. They want a business to come here. What do? They give it incentives, tax breaks, and everything else. It's exactly what we did in the 80s. Why not do the same for the people of the United States? I think the people in Washington ought to take an economics lesson from Mario Cuomo, who's obviously taking an economics lesson from me and the EIB Network and the Limbaugh Institute. Because this is the real world, folks. They run around and say a whole bunch of different things, the exact opposite of what we've showed you. But when they want business, they make it easy for them. They take away punitive taxes. And if you want the economy at large to grow, not just a new Mercedes-Benz plan, you do the same thing for the American people. I hope you're listening, President Clinton and everybody else, because anything less than this for the rest of America is simply disaster. We'll be back with phone calls after this. Just sent that in as a viewer video. All right, let's go down and talk to Leslie, Peachtree City, Georgia, near Atlanta. There we go. Hi, Leslie. Glad you called.
Hi, Russ. I've been waiting for hours to talk to you. We were driving along to go to Home Depot. My husband just lives around the clock to listen to your radio.
I can understand
and he is such a fan. In fact, that's all he wanted for Christmas was your book. We ended up buying 3 of them. And he starts reading it at the dinner table. We have 3 children. But let me explain that I was just beginning to really like you and appreciate you, your truth, your patriotism, all that you stand for and being conservative and supporting this country. And then I heard on the talk show today that you had been interviewed for Playboy.
That's right.
And I could not believe my ears.
Why? What's wrong with me doing an interview in Playboy?
Because they are the scum of the earth. They promote crime, violence, drugs, children, sex with children. I mean, all of.
Okay, now, wait, hang on just a second. Let me just take over here because I have thought about this. I talked about it with a lot of people before. I decided to do it. I knew that there would be reactions such as yours. I look at this quite oppositely from you. I look at this as a victory. Here is a chance to have the pro-life view.
But you're the ultimate.
Pardon?
You're the ultimate in conservatism.
So what? Wait, let me finish this. You don't have to buy it. In fact, if it would offend you to look at this and see what's in it, don't buy it. But they have 2 million readers who need to hear the things that you and I believe, and they're never exposed to those things in Playboy. Now, you and I can sit around all day, Leslie, and talk to ourselves, and we can all get together as friends in our enclaves and talk to ourselves and convince ourselves we're really smart and we're really right. But let me ask you a question. You think Jesus Christ would do an interview in Playboy?
Absolutely not. He wouldn't touch it.
I think Jesus Christ would go to where the sinners are.
Well,
I think that's now wait. Now before I am not speaking for the Savior. I don't intend to do that. I don't intend to assume anything. But I ask myself that question. And I think that is the honest answer that I gave myself is what I think most of the audience here responded to in the affirmative as well. I think you people ought to a little lighten up out there on this, because for once now, there is going to be a view other than that which you think Playboy stands for right in their own pages, where people who read that magazine are finally going to hear. And I told them I'm not going to sit and answer any personal sexual questions, behavior or otherwise. I'm not going to tell you anything personal about my love life, my sex life, any of that. It's all off limits. If you want to talk to me about my core beliefs, fine. And they accepted those conditions, and the interview was conducted as such. It was not combative. I did it last week. It took about 8 hours to do. I have it all on tape, as do they, in case something's done with it, but I don't think they will. It's the December issue, which is their biggest issue of the year, and I think that while you don't have to buy it, and others who are offended by it clearly don't need to, I look at it as a major achievement and an accomplishment. To finally have some words. I would go on MTV. It's the same difference. If they asked me to come on MTV and do this show, if they would put this show on MTV, I'd put it there. Because I think the people who watch MTV need to see this show. I think they need to hear what goes on here. And it's the same thing. We can't just stay amongst ourselves and sit here and wring our hands and worry about how rotten it is and point at those people over there and shout at them, hey, you people, you are really messing up. I'm going to go right in amongst them, and I'm not going to shout it. I'm just going to say it plain as day on the pages they read, and they'll be able to go back to it. And I'll tell you this, they wanted me to be on the cover, too. And I turned that down for the reasons you mentioned. They did. They wanted me to... I said, what do you want me to do, a sex change? You wanted to put me on there as a babe or something on your cover? I've never heard of a guy on the cover of Playboy, and I'm not going to set that precedent, I guarantee you. So I appreciate your understanding of this, or your concern, and I took it into account when I decided to do it. But don't think, I'm not being corrupted here. You've got to look at it in a totally different light. This magazine is going to have some class and dignity, finally, on its pages. That's how you got to look at it. We'll be back with more right after this. What is who thinking? Doing that was a picture of Deborah, and to put me in there. Deborah, I'm terribly sorry about that. There she is. No, come on, take it. Come on, put her back in there. Let people see. There she is. There's Deborah, our commie babe makeup artist. There she is. Look at her. All right. Okay. Now, hold it. We're going to go real fast here. One of Deborah's heroes, I'm sure, I haven't asked her about this, but I'm sure, is Anna Quinlan. She's a columnist for the New York Times. She writes twice a week, feminist issues. She has said that the most important role she has as a mother is to raise her sons as good feminists. And she tells women every day how they ought to live, and she criticizes people like me. She's the one who wrote in her column that in relation to the Michael Douglas movie about falling down, all these paranoid white guys who are just willing to take it out on the rest of society for all the things that are not going our way. She wrote of this show, you and the radio audience, and of me, that if this show were on the air during 1863, we would have opposed the Emancipation Proclamation. We would have opposed freedom for the slaves. That's what this woman thinks. She's out there describing for people how they should live their lives. I want to read for you something that I didn't know in an interview with her in USA Today. She works at home, and she's home every afternoon when her kids come home from school. Oh, yes, while she has her full-time job. Do you plan to return to management's the question. I like this job so much, she says, and I like my home life. My kids are really accustomed to coming home from school to mom. Oh, well, Anna, welcome to reality. You don't allow that other women to experience this. It's great. I'm so lucky. My husband was saying to me today, you know, the weird thing is that there are all these working mothers out there who see you as carrying the flag for them, but you don't live like one of them at all. And Anna said to her husband, you know, you're really right. And she does. Typical liberalism. Tell you how you ought to live, but exempt themselves from the same restrictions. And I just wanted to point this out so that you can chew on it until our next show when we'll give you more fun. See you then, folks. Glad to have you with us tonight.
Services provided and promotional fees paid by the following. Rush Limbaugh's Wardrobe by Rochester, Big and Tall.
If you'd like to order a video cassette of Rush's TV show for only $24.95, just call 1-800-FOR-VIDEO. For a transcript, send $5 to Burrell's Transcripts, Box 7, Livingston, New Jersey, 07039, or call 1-800-777-TEXT.